pain, and then I'll try to tell you a really gory one. A few years ago, about 2 or 3 years ago, I looked at the headline in the paper, and I noticed a sinkhole had opened up down at the Corvette Museum in Bowling Green. Did any of you hear about that? Swallowed up several cars. And I remembered then what had happened when I was a child on our farm. We had a sinkhole, but our sinkhole wasn't anything like the one at Bowling Green. It would be like, you know, if it were just like a hole around here. Actually, we used it for a garbage disposal. You know, we ate a lot of chicken in the country. We had outside dogs. And if you know about dogs, you know that you don't want to feed them chicken bones. They splinter easily, and they'll get caught in the dog's throat, sometimes even kill it. So we threw all of our chicken bones in the sinkhole. Now remember, this story, oddly enough, didn't take place at Halloween or Christmas. It took place on the 4th of July. My cousin Larry came down from Cincinnati to spend the summer with us. And my cousin Earl, who lived on the next farm, became great friends with him. Now Larry had come down because his dad had died, and his mother was having trouble keeping him with the right crowd and getting him to do his schoolwork. She thought my dad, his Uncle Tom, could maybe straighten him out. So he came down that summer, and Earl and Larry decided that they were going to have a fireworks display. Now you may not believe it, but when I was your age, kids could buy fireworks. Of course, we had nothing like thunder over Louisville, but we had fireworks that would pop or sizzle or just sparkle, and kids could buy them. So they decided that they would save their money and they would buy fireworks and do their own display. Unfortunately, they came up short. They needed $1 more in order to buy the fireworks, and they didn't have it. And they couldn't raise the money because if they tried to sell something that they had on the farm, it didn't work because there were farms all around and nobody needed it. One day, Larry was walking past my parents' room, and there on his Uncle Tom's dresser was this jar with coins in it. And right on top was a shiny silver dollar. So he took it. Well, he didn't mean to steal it. He had every intention of asking his mom to pay Uncle Tom the dollar when she got there. To him, a dollar was a dollar. And when Earl came over after supper that night, Larry said, "Come on down to an old bench down near the sinkhole." He said, "Let's go down there and plan what we're going to do." Earl said, "We don't have the money yet." He says, "Yes, we do. I've got a dollar." They walked on down there, and Earl said, "Where'd you get a dollar?" He said, "From Uncle Tom's dresser. There was a jar there with coins in it, and I took the silver dollar." "Oh," Earl said, "you didn't take that silver dollar. Uncle Tom loves that silver dollar. His dad gave it to him before he died. He wouldn't part with that for anything." "Oh," Larry said, "well, I didn't know. I'll take it back. I'll put it back." Well, what the boys didn't know was that at that very moment, my grandmother had decided to come down and throw chicken bones in the sinkhole. She walked very softly. She didn't mean to sneak up on the boys, but she did. And she just heard Larry say, "I'll put it back." So she said, "Put what back?" Well, the boys were startled, and they whirled around to see who was behind them, and Larry's hand flew out, and the silver dollar landed in the sinkhole. He started to run in there immediately, but my grandmother said, "No, don't go in that. We don't know how deep that thing is. You're just going to have to tell your Uncle Tom what happened and let him help you look for it." Well, that was the last thing they wanted to do, but they told him, and actually he took it very well. He remembered being a boy and how easy easy it was to get into trouble when it really wasn't your fault. So he said, we'll just go look in the morning. Maybe it just caught on the edge somewhere. But that night, it rained and rained and rained, and in the morning, water was standing in that sinkhole. They couldn't look then. But every day that summer, Larry would go down and he would walk around that sinkhole hoping that somehow it had just spit that silver dollar up and he could return it to his Uncle Tom. But the summer ended, his mom came to get him, and as he left, he looked at my father, his Uncle Tom, and he said, Uncle Tom, I'm so sorry. I promise you I'll come back next 4th of July and I'll find that silver dollar for you. Well, autumn came and went, winter and spring, and it was summer again. But Larry didn't get to come down. Remember I told you that his grades weren't too good? His mom made him stay in Cincinnati and go to summer school. We really missed him. He had all kinds of ideas that livened up our life out in the country. Earl said, oh, I wish he could come, because this year the town had planned to have its own fireworks display for the first time. They were going to have it at the school, and the school was 3 fields over from where we lived. We could see the fireworks without even leaving our backyard. When it was time to watch them, we moved chairs out in the yard, and we sat there and we watched what we thought was a really exciting show of fireworks. When it was over, we started to take our chairs inside. But suddenly, that hot July night turned cool, and we shivered. And we looked around, and something odd was down at the sinkhole. There was this light, but it was in the form of a person, and it was shimmering all over that sinkhole. Well, my dad hurried down there to see what it was, but when he got there, it vanished. But the moonlight was shining as he looked down, and right at the very edge of the sinkhole, he saw something shining. He picked it up, and it was his lost silver dollar. Well, he hurried back to the house and he says, you're not going to believe this. I've got to let Larry know about this, because he worried all summer about losing his silver dollar. Again, we started to take our chairs in the house, but we saw car lights coming. Now, I have to tell you at this point that you won't believe me. We did not have telephones. I know you can't imagine life without your telephone. But there was a phone at the sheriff's office, there was a phone at the doctor's office, and at the little country store. If anybody wanted to get a message to anybody in the community, they would call the sheriff. He would take the message and he would drive out and deliver it to whoever was receiving the message. Well, we saw as it got closer that this was the sheriff's car. And we wondered, what on earth is he doing out here tonight? We lived at the very end of the road, so we knew if the car was coming at our house. We walked out in the yard when the sheriff pulled in, and my dad said, well, hello, what can we do for you? What you doing out tonight? Well, the sheriff got out, and he said, I'm really sorry to have to deliver this message, but I just got the call. You see, Larry was riding his bike up in Cincinnati today, about noon, and a drunk driver hit him and he died. Now, I hate to say that. I really thought the world of that boy. He stayed a little longer and tried to comfort us, but then he went on, and we looked at each other. And we wondered, had Mother Nature, by some freakish way, actually spit that coin out? Or had Larry's ghost come down and found the silver dollar and kept his promise to his Uncle Tom? We always believed that Larry had found the silver dollar. Now, that's a true story. And that is one that is in one of my books. I think it's Haunted Holidays. And it's showing you that ghost stories are not just for Halloween. They used to be for Christmas. But now, I tell all year round. People just celebrate all year round. Now, I'm going to tell one that the teachers have heard before so they can close their ears or something, okay? You ready for something really gory? You want to hear something really gory? Scary? You're sure? This is called streamers. You know what streamers are? No, those are screamers. These are streamers. I didn't say that clearly, too. A streamer is a decoration. You know, there are those strips that you see hanging down at parties and things. But believe me, my friends, you do not want my streamers at your party. Sarah woke when the storm was at its worst. The wind howled and screeched like something evil trying to get in. And Sarah sat up in bed, frightened. She wished now that she had waited until her husband Ed could finish his work in the city and go to the country with her. But you see, they hadn't been married very long and they wanted to take a vacation. They didn't have much money. So when Ed's boss said, well, you can use that old house down in the country. We don't go down there anymore, but it's in good shape. All you need to do is kind of clean it up. So Sarah had come down early. She'd got in groceries, and she had cleaned a lot that day. But now, here she was out in the country by herself in the middle of a thunderstorm. She looked at the clock. It was 2 a.m. And she knew that was between 4 was more activity of ghostly things than any other time. So she shivered. And just then, the wind just sucked the curtains back against the screen. Oh no, she said, I forgot to close the window. Now the rain's going to come in, just ruin the floors after all that nice people let us have. I got to close the window. She walked over, and as she reached up to pull the window down, there was a big flash of lightning that lit up the whole yard, and she could see this old tree in the driveway. It was odd because something was on that tree. Nothing had been on it when she came down, but now it looked like streamers at a party. She thought, that's silly. Who in the world would come out, way out in the country, in the middle of the night, in a thunderstorm, to decorate a tree? And then she thought, oh, I'll bet some kids just came out here and rolled that tree with toilet paper as a joke. Ooh, she thought, I'll have a mess to clean up tomorrow. But she couldn't do anything about it that night, so she went back to bed and went to sleep. When she woke up, well, it was cheerful. The cloud had gone on. So she walked over to the window to see what kind of damage the storm had done. There were just a few little limbs down, but of course she looked at the old tree. She couldn't believe it. The streamers were gone. Now, never in her life had she heard of wet toilet paper being blown off a tree. But she didn't question her good luck. She just wanted to get on with her work in the house and not have to bother with that mess. Now that morning, she worked in the front of the house, and out the windows she could see the old tree. She glanced to see if any kids were coming back to play a joke on her. No kids. She watched, she'd work and look. Not even a bird or an animal came near that tree. But you know, she knew something was in it. Something was staring at her, and she knew it didn't like her. She shivered. She went on with her work. And then, late in the afternoon, she heard thunder again. Oh no, she thought, not another stormy night down here by myself. She thought maybe I should just fix a sandwich, take a glass of milk and the sandwich upstairs, read myself to sleep. Maybe I won't. Well, that's what she did. But something woke her. It was one of those times when something had just happened, but she didn't know what. But something woke her. She lay there in bed listening, and then she heard this scrape, scrape, right on the side by her window. Ooh. She tried to ignore it, but she heard it. Scrape, scrape. Oh, she thought, I'm being silly. It's just a limb. A wind's blowing a limb against the side of the house. That's all it is. And she lay back on her pillow. But suddenly she said, "Boom!" Something was out there, and she thought, it can't be a limb. There's no tree outside my window. The old tree is down by the driveway. She had to find out what it was. She got out of bed. She went over. She tried to see what it was, but it was just outside her line of vision. She knew she was going to have to raise the window a little bit and lean out to find what was doing the scraping. And she raised the window. Something just whizzed right by her, scraped against her wrist, and fell with a thud in the floor. Oh, she looked at her wrist. It was stinging, burning, and blood was oozing out. Oh, she looked over to see what had caused it. She knew what it was, though, before she even looked. It was a limb, an old, dead limb. And it had come from that old tree. Oh, she knew it was crazy. But she knew that that tree had it. She knew it was attacking her. She was so angry. She looked at the old tree, and the streamers were back. There they were, like long, ghostly fingers, beckoning to her, moving like they were going to reach her. She was so frightened, but she was also more angry than frightened. She put her robe on. She said, I'm going to find out what those streamers are once and for all. So she went right down the stairs out into the storm. Now, one second, she was looking at those streamers, and the next, splat, she was on the ground. Now, Sarah was not an awkward person. She didn't just trip and fall. Something tripped her. And even before she put her hand down, felt it, she knew it was a root from that old tree. Oh, she got to her feet and she looked up to see what they were, and the streamers were gone. And she was right there by the limb. So she ran her hand along the lowest branch, and she felt a strip of something. It felt like a strip of old, shriveled skin. Oh, she was now more frightened than angry, so she ran to the house as fast as she could. She ran all the way into the kitchen to get a drink, and she realized she was still holding that thing in her hand. She looked at it under the bright light, and it really did look like a strip of old, bloody skin. Ooh, she couldn't stand it. She flung it into the sink, ran up the back stairs. She didn't even recognize herself. Her gown was all covered with mud. Her hair was plastered down by the rain. She didn't even know who she was. She went in, took a shower, cleaned herself up, but she didn't sleep much that night. She lay in bed thinking about the thing in the sink. I mean, what if it flopped out of the sink? What if it just slid across the floor, inched its way up the stairs, slithered under her door, and jumped into bed with her? Morning was a long time coming. And when it did, she felt totally foolish. I mean, that room was so cheerful, and she started to laugh. I'll bet you, I was so scared, I'll bet you I ripped a piece of bark right off that tree. She went down to see. It wasn't bark. It still looked like an old, shriveled piece of bloody skin. Well, she couldn't stand it. She picked it up by the very end. She opened the door and just flung it out into the grass. She thought it would just lay there. But it didn't. A wind began to moan and whirl and picked up that piece, dropped it on the branch of the old tree. She said, okay, that does it. I'm not staying by myself another night in this house. I'm going to call Ed, and I don't care if he's finished his work or not. I don't even care if his boss gets mad. He's going to quit his work. He's going to come down here today, and he's going to stay with me. She called the office, and the secretary answered. And she said, I have good news for you. Ed just finished his work, and he's on his way down there now. Oh, that was the best news she could have heard. She actually finished a little cleaning. Oh, but she was so tired. Remember, she'd stayed awake all night waiting for the thing to come slithering under her door. So she thought, I need a nap. I'm going to go up and just close the windows and pull the shades down, and I'm going to sleep. And then when Ed gets here, I'll be all refreshed, and I'll fix us a good meal, and we'll laugh about all this silly stuff. So that's what she did. But she must have been more exhausted than she thought, because she slept, and she slept, and she slept. When she woke up, it was dark in the room, and she could hear it raining outside. And she thought, oh, where's Ed? Well, he must have seen how tired I was and just let me sleep. She hurried over to the window to see if his car was in the driveway. It wasn't. But the streamers were back. There they were, beckoning, reaching like ghostly fingers. Oh, she said, what am I going to do? I don't even know how to get in touch with Ed. I don't know where he is. And just at that point, the phone rang. Well, she was so happy to hear Ed's voice. He said, honey, I'm sorry I can't get there. The roads have been washed out with all this rain. The phone line's been down to the house. I've just now been able to call you. Just stay inside and I'll be there when I can. She said, Ed, you've got to come. Oh, please, you've got to come. He said, what's wrong with you? Well, it's those streamers, she said. They're on the old tree. And they keep appearing and disappearing and reappearing and disappearing. I don't know what they are, but they don't like me. Well, she thought he'd laugh. But he was just silent. She said, Ed, did something happen at that tree that you didn't tell me about? Well, something did happen at that tree, Sarah. I didn't tell you because I didn't think it had anything to do with you. But maybe I'm wrong. You see, Sarah, the people that own this house used to have a daughter. She was in love with me, Sarah, but I didn't think that way of her. She was the most jealous, possessive woman I ever met in my life. Well, there was a party at the house one night. It was a stormy night, and, well, the girl just kind of pushed the issue. I had to be very blunt and tell her I did not want to be her boyfriend. She didn't take it very well. She grabbed the car keys from the table in the hall, ran out in that storm. She got in her car and zoomed off down that driveway. Now, I don't know if the lightning was blinding her. I don't know if her tears were making her unable to see. But she rammed right into that tree. There was a terrible explosion. And by the time we got to her, she was hanging in strips from the branches. Now, I don't know that that has anything to do with you, Sarah, but she was a jealous woman. Sarah could barely talk now, and she said, Ed, what time did that happen? I don't know, he said. It was a party, I guess it was about 2 a.m. Why? She looked at the clock. It was now 1 minute till 2, and the second hand had started around. Ed, you've got to get here. You've got to. Ed? But he didn't answer. The phone had gone dead again. Oh my goodness, she thought. What am I going to do? That thing hates me. Should I stay in the house? Should I try to go out the back and get away? But before she could do anything or make any decision, it was made for her. There, crash through the window, this big leafy limb. It wrapped itself around her. It lifted her through that broken window, up into that dark, rainy sky. She looked down, and now that tree was alive with streamers reaching toward her. She tried to grab onto something to hold on, but there was nothing to hold on to. And the last thing she remembered was being flung toward that tree and ripped into 1,000 pieces. Now, the wind died down and the storm moved on. But the streamers swayed gently in the darkness. Now, when I wrote that story, I ended it there. But I hear that somebody bought that place, tore the old house down, and built a new one. Could even be your house. So I want you all to promise me 2 things when you get home today. First, check out any old tree that might be near your driveway. And this is important. I want you to take it very seriously, guys. Please promise me that you'll always stay away from jealous women.